Vote this.
No, that's all. Okay.
I'm rebooting right now, so again for the fourth time tonight. Rebooting.
So we need to pause the meeting.
No, okay. Just keep going.
Continue. So now sent to the village committee reports. First will be finance.
Mayor, yes, sir. We had a meeting tonight, and we talked about several things, especially the budget and employee raises. And our next meeting is March 11th.
Service did not meet tonight. Our next scheduled meeting is the 26th at 6.
Safety. Okay. Our next meeting is the 26th at 6:30. Rules.
We did meet tonight, and there will be a ordinance on the council's agenda for amending the urban planning program. That's 2024-3.
All right. Now we're to the public safety reports.
Thank you, Mayor. There's a few things here. We did have another full-time officer start today. Comes with us with 9 years of experience on the road. And our new canine officer starts Thursday. He's got 25 years of experience, so we should be quick schedules to get on the road. I have contacted several departments all over the place about trying to get canine things are donated to us. So we're the officer that, so that they pull the cage in the back and all that stuff. But anyway, and I did secure though a canine insert that we could put in one of our cars or in a car that maybe we get donated that's not an actual canine car. So working through some of that stuff. Working with the sheriff's office. I got 2 officers going to training this week and 2 officers going next week in conjunction with some training they're offering up to us. Office improvements are going well. Took the old window air conditioner out. Excuse me. Filled that hole. Some drywall work being done, as well as just cleaning out some things in order for the new flooring to go down. Talked to Variety Floors, who gave us the original quote. They gave us another quote that added more area for less money. It was a favorite to this department, which was nice. And don't have a delivery date yet, but things are going well.
Okay, how about do you have anything from the fire department?
No, the fire board will meet 15th at 6:30 at Station 610.
Okay. And then I guess the committee, Planning and Zoning Commission.
Yes, sir.
That's Thursday.
We met last Thursday,
yes.
And we discussed a few things. One thing that we did take care of was deciding a chair and vice chair. Mr. Margaret will be the chair. If I recollect properly, I believe it was Brandon is the vice chair. One of the things that came up during our meeting was the ponds. And I understand after talking with Mr. Bibler this afternoon that there was a moratorium put on the last time it was discussed, right? And I don't think it's changed. Nothing's changed on that, right? They had suggested that I bring it back to council, not understanding that it had already been addressed by council on the moratorium. So they understand. I talked to Mr. Mauger, the chair, today, and so he understands what was.
My understanding was the moratorium on ponds when planning and zoning decided whether anything needed to be.
Okay.
That was my understanding. We're going to do something. It was a moratorium. Send planning and zoning. Is there something we should do?
Yeah, this is back in Terry.
Yeah, this is way back.
Yeah. And
so it isn't saying that we're going to add rules to ponds or not add rules to ponds. It was a moratorium until planning and zoning could go over and send whatever they recommended back to council.
And they did have a draft, did have draft legislation. And I do have the notes from that draft legislation that Ms. McCreary had. So we can bring it to council for review and okay, so I'll do that.
Next would be the tree commission.
The meeting did not occur there was a special meeting or training or something going on. So they were involved in, so there was no meeting this month.
And then the records commission.
We haven't met this year.
Okay. The last but not least would be the last.
Yes, we have a meeting scheduled for this Sunday, the 18th at 3 p.m. I'm very excited about, we have had a lot of wonderful ideas come out of this, and I don't know, I just think it's going to be a good thing, and I think it's going to be a lot of fun. One of the things that I did bring up, Jeff, to Brian before the meeting, there are some revenue producing events being discussed. Can the village take that money? I mean, are we allowed to accept money? Are we allowed to do some kind of revenue producing activity and get the money from it? Is the question.
For that. For the bicentennial.
I was thinking,
From it.
I was going to make some inquiries myself, but I was thinking along the lines of setting up like an agency fund, something that council doesn't control.
Yeah.
Setting up as an agency fund.
I would check with the auditor's office on that to see whether that's doable. I recall there was a Christmas tree Christmas ornament fund that generated some income, and the village accepted donations for that. And I believe that was problematic. That may have been before your time, Brian.
Yeah, I think I was the auditor back then.
Personal knowledge. So, and that created some issues. So we just have to be cautious about that. So if anything like that, I would suggest reaching out to the auditor's office and getting.
I think for that purpose, we funded it to BDRC.
Well, that's what I was.
Their nonprofit as a separate fund under there.
Yeah.
That way it didn't get involved with public or government.
It's the alternative.
It was over an already existing nonprofit.
But the money actually, the seed money, so to speak, for some things is going to come from the village. So I kind of wanted to give the money back into the village. See what I'm saying? But if nothing else, we can direct the money to the renovation committee.
Let me check with the auditor's office.
It's going to be. I'm very excited about it.
All right, next thing is ordinance and resolution.
Motion. Please. We talked about. Okay.
Motion to raise the pay 3%. That came out of finance.
Yes.
Okay, so.
Well, it's got to come out of council. They discuss it at finance.
Right, we discussed that at finance.
Right.
I will make a motion that we do it, that council consider annual, like a 3% pay raise for village employees. That it's worked into the budget.
It's already in the budget.
It's already in the budget in place, yes.
I second it.
Discussion.
So is this in reference to what Brian was talking about?
Yes,
Okay.
because he's already budgeted it. It's in there already. Roll call.
Well,
Discussion.
Mr. Faco, we have in there for you the percentage.
Do we have to do it with, I was just gonna talk to you about that.
I'm sorry.
Are you good with 3%? I guess would be my question for you.
I'm fine with that. It used to be, quite frankly, and I haven't had an increase in a number of years.
And that's what I was told.
I haven't pushed the issue. But it used to be prior to Brian's involvement with the village that anytime that all village employees receive a pay increase, I was included in
Yeah,
that.
I would think so, yes.
But that changed at some point. Under my contract though, council can do that and they can review it because I'm technically on a 2-year term. And now's the time of the year that council can do that, can review it. So
I was always unclear as to whether you were an employee of the village or whether you were like a contractor or a subcontractor.
He's a
Well,
contracted employee.
That's so it's kind of a different category.
I'm both, quite
Okay.
frankly, because, but I still have to, the village and I both still have to comply with the Ohio Revised Code in that it's a 2-year term. So, and that'll be up next year, beginning of next year. So.
At the end of this year, yeah.
Right.
Your contract runs through the end of this year, yes.
But, no, I'm fine with that.
Okay. So that takes care of it, so you know what to do then.
Well, you
We have to
want
vote
to
on
modify it to include the solicitor.
Yeah.
I don't have a motion to do that.
No, you've already got the motion. We've had a discussion. Let's see, Cosgray.
Yes.
Foreman.
Yes.
McCree's not here. Phillips.
Yes.
Reedy.
Yes.
Schaffner.
Yes.
Thank you. Any other ordinances to go over?
Well, that was just motions.
Now we're going.
Well, I guess the question is, there any other motions?
Well, I think that's what he was
Yeah, that's what
Yeah.
I was trying to say. Right.
getting at.
Okay.
Okay, now on to ordinances.
All right. So,
First reading.
Yeah.
Ordinance 2024-02, an ordinance amending chapter 830 of the Baltimore's codified ordinances, the tax code, in order to adopt revisions recommended by RITA, including revisions related to Ohio Bill 33 and the correction to certain provisions. And the declaration of emergency, I make a motion to bypass 3 readings. Suspend 3 readings. Hold a second.
discussion. Roll call.
Cosgray.
Yes.
Foreman.
Yes.
Phillips.
Yes.
Reedy.
Yes.
Schaffner.
Yes.
Okay, Cosgrave makes a motion to adopt ordinance 2024 -02. Hold a second.
Okay.
Hold a second.
Discussion. Roll call.
Cosgray.
Yes.
Foreman.
Yes.
Phillips.
Yes.
Reedy.
Yes.
Schaffner.
Yes.
Okay, ordinance 2024-03 is an urban hunting program for properties annexed or to be annexed into the village corporation limits. We talked about this back in we've been talking about it for a while, but we've kind of changed it around and made it, I think, a little more palatable to everyone. And this one's on for first reading, and I believe we're able to just let it go for 3 readings, and so this will just be on for a second reading.
Any discussion? Roll call.
No, there's no rule.
Second reading.
All right, just a second reading. All right, so we have a third reading of none. We have a table ordinance.
We're going to table for 2 more weeks.
Okay.
And this ordinance in 2023 is the budget.
Yeah.
Next council will adopt that.
That's good. All right, is there any old business? Any other new business?
I have something I'd like to start talking about, and that is a increase in our income tax. I don't know the procedures, I don't know how to go about it, but bless the hearts of people involved or the staff here. They've been working on the same income tax since 1964. That's crazy, people. With all of the incomes that's been happening, food prices going up, streets going up, if we want our streets paved, if we want that kind of stuff done, we need to do something about the income tax. And I just need procedures on how we go about it.
I can answer that because it came up when Brian and I were discussing this ordinance that council just passed. It was either in 2019 or 2020. Village council at the time passed an ordinance to put it on the levy. And it was to increase it from 1% to 1.5%. And it failed. So it went to the voters, and which is the procedure.
This is income.
Income tax. That's what you were asking.
Yes, ma'am,
Yeah.
sir.
Yep, and voters turned it down.
Okay.
So we have to go through the same procedure. So the Ohio Revised Code requires that council pass an ordinance and that it be put on the ballot at the next general election, and that well, we could have a special election for it, but and the village has to pay for that. So and that can sometimes be costly. But and then it would be up to the voters to decide whether they want to approve that or not.
I feel like in the current climate, it would not even come close.
I feel like we need it. I feel like you got a fire levy on there and.
Everybody's happening in the spring. How do you get money into the town?
I agree.
To pay
No,
the-
Inflation increases in and of themselves increase our tax rate. So it isn't as though we haven't made any more money from that since 1964, because every single person that lives in town makes more money
The
now.
population has grown. There's been.
That's one of the problems with Baltimore is the population hasn't grown. If you look at the population of every small town in central Ohio, there's only two that I can find where the population hasn't grown in the last 30 years, and that's Thurston and Baltimore. So I'm not saying that's good or bad. I'm just saying it's a fact.
Brian, you have the income taxes for the area. Can you provide that for us next time?
Income taxes for the area.
Like the rates.
Like in Carroll or Miller.
Carroll,
Yeah.
that
Other-
city.
Oh, yeah, you mean do
If
some,
they even have an income tax sometimes.
He showed it to me, and some of the stuff that's around is amazing.
I just know that yeah, okay. Yeah.
That's something we definitely need to talk about.
Yeah, I,
Oh, I'm fine with the conversation. I'm just
I
expressing
know,
my opinion on the chances of it succeeding.
I don't believe we need to do real estate because a lot of older folks pay their real estate, but income tax. 1964, guys, come on. You're not living on that food bill
Agreed.
that you did in 1964. I don't like it, but
Baltimore's one of the few where if you do pay it somewhere else, you also still pay it here.
well,
And that's
that's part
probably one
of
of the
the
sticking
thing.
points that you're gonna bump into.
But that's part of the thing. You could always give them a little bit of a.
If you give them a credit,
Yeah,
you give them the
back.
incentive, bring back the credit.
Like I say, if you included something like that, you'd have a better chance, is what I'm getting at.
Yeah.
Because so many of the actual residents that vote on it do work somewhere else.
Right.
And so many people who live here who don't vote on it don't have any say in that. So you're gonna all of the school teachers and all of the employees of Drive pay it, but they don't get a vote on it. So if you wanted to pass, you might want to incentivize the people who live here, because those are the people who are voting.
I reached out to Rita late last year about this exact same thing, topic. They give me a projection of what, if we raise it 0.5%, this is what would happen. If we raise it 1%, this is what would happen. With also the caveat of giving back the credit, the 0.5% credit. You'd be surprised as to how much additional revenue that could generate for the village. I don't have a spreadsheet. I have that email.
Well, you'd also want to be able to show residents
Right.
what it would do for them.
And yes, right. That's
Not
correct.
just what it does for the village.
That's for the village, but you could use it. You could use that. It would help not only the general fund, the street fund, the swimming pool. You can earmark some of. Council has the authority to earmark it some to help out putting in new water lines. There's
Yeah.
selling points to this thing.
My problem is that at the same time we're asking for that, we have what I consider to be substantial carryovers. So that would be, if the carryovers were less, or if we were not carrying over as much, it would be much easier to make the case.
I understand, but the general fund is the general operating fund of the village, and you have to have a sizable carryover for emergencies. Other funds, not so much. I agree with you there. But you still have to, if you get below, in my mind, a certain dollar amount. I mean, because I was an auditor 30 years ago, and I was this close to putting this village in a fiscal watch situation. And you don't want to get in that situation.
That's a long time ago.
I know. Well, not so.
I'm
No.
not suggesting we live paycheck to paycheck.
I know.
I'm just
Well,
suggesting.
we're definitely not living paycheck to paycheck.
Yeah. So.
Well, we know we need to talk about that.
Yep. Please. Okay.
So, gentlemen, the visitors, who would like to talk? Or would all of you like to talk?
I'm probably going to lead the charge for the first minute or so, and then I'm going to hand it over to the gentleman right behind me. But first of all, I would like to thank the village and everything for working with the Liberty Union FFA and the Liberty Union students with other things that we've done, like the signage and everything for the schools. I saw that the village has put it up, and Mr. Foreman and I have had numerous conversations about that, and I thank you for your support on that. I have an individual, a student, who's wanting to do a project that affects the village a little bit as well as the school. What he is aiming for is he is very big in the agriculture education program. And one of the things that he pushes is he has the facility at home to be able to raise market livestock and stuff like that at his own personal residence. There's a lot of individuals that live in town, whether it's Thurston, whether it's Baltimore, that do not have that capability. He's proposing that the school builds a facility on part of its grounds, 40 by 60, I believe is what we talked about, building where students could possibly house market livestock at that particular facility. You're at the land, this middle school area as an educational purpose type thing, or, some part of the school grounds. Doing that, we understand that it goes, since the school is in the village, it goes against a lot of the village ordinances. I can't speak today really well, but rules, laws, and regulations. Okay, there we go. All right. My name's Chris Turner. I'm the ag teacher.
Sorry.
So when you say like maybe building a barn so kids could have 4-H project, stuff like that.
They can house them there, and be able, back behind the middle school. If you know how the property lines are all divided and everything, part of the land lab is not in the village. Part of the school land lab is in the village, but the building would probably be in the village area, because in order to do that, we're not going to build a building in the middle of the woods. It's not economical to do that, to run power, to run water, to run whatever utilities we need to the facility. But there wasn't a topic of discussion to be able to build a building back behind the bus barn type area, back in that area, so without further ado, I will give you Mr. George here. He can pitch his pitch to you guys, so you guys can chew on it and think about it, and let us know what your thoughts are later on, for us to possibly consider that, or so that's where we're at. That's what we're doing. Okay.
I'm Logan George, and I do want to build the barn for the animals, but the big thing is zoning violations. we want to know what are the violations and if we can change them for the specific project that we're going for.
I would say we need to know exactly where on the property you guys are talking about doing it, for one.
I could pull up a picture if you'd like.
No, that's all right.
I'm gonna start it from the
Yeah,
You would have to.
yeah,
So
that's.
it's gonna need to start with the planning and zoning committee, and they would recommend to council. I know I, for one, as a council member, would be in favor of accepting the school from that particular part of the zone because of where we're located. But it would need to start in zoning committee and come out of zoning committee.
Okay. So we just have them come
And I, as a
to.
council member, would well, when's the next zoning committee meeting?
It'll be, March,
Second Thursday.
Thursday of March, which would be
Second Thursday would be the 14th.
14th, yes.
I would mark it on your calendar.
Yeah.
And that would probably be, a couple things I would do. I would get maybe some kind of like size of the barn and about where you guys want to put it and, like a site plan or something. As the mayor, I would definitely, I think that's awesome. I feel like we have to figure out a way to do these exemptions for the school. That's just where we live. And we need to, this is a good thing to continue stuff on, so.
The type of animals, you're talking like pigs and cows and.
Yeah, it really depends on what the members want to take.
Project.
Yeah.
4-H or FFA, but where they're talking about building it, there's no houses out there anyways.
No, but I could look right at
Yeah, well, wouldn't that be beautiful?
them. Oh, yeah, and listen to cows.
Yeah.
So what are the typical 4-H animals then?
Typically livestock would be cows, lambs, pigs, and chickens most of the time. But the barn's pretty much for bigger animals because in town you can have chickens, I think.
Yeah.
But you can't really have cows in your backyard.
Both animals.
Mhm.
So this would be,
My dad got away with
a particular time period, right? Like between this month and this month?
Like when would they buy the animals? When would the animals go in the barn? Like you buy them in the spring, you work with them all summer and sell them at the fair, right?
For the most part, cattle projects normally come in somewhere in November. Just because you buy them as a
Right.
feeder or whatever, you gotta grow them out. So they normally come in sometime in November. Weigh-in is the first weekend in March. Swine projects, you gotta have them by the July 4th, July 1st, July 4th sometime. I gotta look at the exact rule, somewhere in the first week of July.
So it's gonna be occupied basically all year.
Yeah.
Now, are you talking about a pasture or just a barn?
Barn and pasture.
How much pasture? I guess that's the other question.
I'm not going to say a lot because that's going to take
5 acres?
probably about 2, maybe 3, depending on how much space we do.
How many animals at one time?
It could vary depending on how big the animal, like cows, you can't have 100 of them in a 40 by 60 barn, but like if you do sheep, you can have a couple. Mostly it'll be what the people take. And I'm not going to say there's a lot of them that want to take it, but I could say there's a couple. So obviously it's going to be a little bit.
So you could have 10 people with 2 sheep.
No. Like one person, 1 or 2 animals.
I mean, you could have 10 different students that each have 2 sheep.
Yeah.
Yes.
That was my statement.
I thought it was like.
No,
10
you can have 10 different students whose project is sheep, and they would each have 2 sheep, which would be 20 sheep.
Are you
I
gonna,
don't know that we can really put a limit on it, but at the same time, we have a high state university smack in the middle of Columbus, Ohio, that allows all this because they are an agricultural school, and they're certainly no more agricultural than we are.
Mhm.
So,
are you gonna charge to do this?
They will like buy their feed, water. We should be able to cover that. They will probably pitch in for it.
They being the student?
Yes, yes.
So there's not like a stall rental per se.
I'm not good for an educational thing.
Good, that's what I wanted to hear, yeah.
It's very difficult to do that for an educational purpose or a project.
We can't make it so students have to furnish their own feed and livestock.
Right. Okay.
You know what I mean? That's part of their educational.
Cover the fees.
Yes,
Cover the
cover the fees and costs. We help provide the facility and we'll be able to do it.
Well, I would say, come back with to the zoning, and then I would have like something, whether you get a map of that plotted land and show where you're thinking about, because if there are neighbors, like Ms. Reed, we'd just like to see, we'd like to just see where it is, but I think that's great. I think that's awesome.
Well, and you've got an idea now by everybody's questions, what kind of, information needs to be presented at the next meeting. So that'll give you some time to, put your thoughts together and give a presentation. So,
yeah.
I would say when you go, you probably ought to have something from the administration to make sure they're already on board with it too.
Yeah.
Whether it be from the administrative,
Mr. Johnson,
or Mr. Turner, or both, or, both the school board. Because you're basically using their land. If you're in here asking for that, you haven't got their permission yet, then we're all wasting our time.
Yeah. And who would, just out of curiosity, where would the funding come from for building the home?
I plan on raising it as like, I'm gonna say not really charity, but
yeah, it is donations. Yeah, that's okay.
That's pretty much where it is. I'm gonna go around like businesses and ask, would you like to donate to this or help out with the project?
And would the school kick in any money for that, or do you know?
I don't know yet. Maybe.
Okay.
As of this moment, I'm going to say no. We have already spoke to the administration there and they said to come and talk to you about zoning and everything else. That's why
Okay. But they might give you some money then, if we can get through all that.
They're gonna have the
Yeah.
2 or 3,
Yeah,
5 acres,
yeah.
whatever.
So it's just a variance they're asking for.
Yeah.
Mr. Turner, are you familiar with other programs in other high schools
Yes, sir.
that do this?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
New Lex has one. The
Okay.
closest one around us would be New Lex High School. They got a building, I don't know if you're familiar with Perry County Fairgrounds,
Yes.
but across the street from Perry County Fairgrounds, there's like Perry County School of Water and everything. There is an old bank barn there that is for the school houses, livestock projects and everything else in that. It's right there inside, like New Lexington.
Right.
Yeah, I was thinking like Hocking. I know Hocking does the equine program down there. I don't know if they have a bovine program too. But they do have a big equine.
They just built a big equine riding arena.
Right.
Now, isn't the school moving the bank to learn recreate to the land?
That has been a topic of discussion. One of the biggest hangups of the bank barn going to the rotary, according to the last meeting I was personally at, was transportation getting it there. The Stillwell family is very active in getting that particular building moved. When it gets if it gets moved, they're trying to provide the funding and everything to drop power lines, move power lines, and everything else, because it will go down their road, down 158, has to jump the bridge and then back over, because it is not allowed to cross the creek. Because soil and water and everybody else have already voiced their concerns, and it will not go through the field to cross the creek. But I think Dingy of Zanesville and stuff like that is the one that fitted it out, and they had a topic of discussion of getting it moved. Yes.
You know how much they were talking about it costing?
It's a lot.
Yeah.
I would include that on your site plan here so people know that it's going to be the bank barns here, the livestock barns here. If you've got that information, I would include that because planning and zoning, I don't think it's been consulted about the bank barn relocation yet either.
The bank barn, if it does come over, it won't be a bank barn anymore. They're deleting the basement out of it, you know what I mean, the bottom part of the bank barn. And so it'll become more like an open shelter house type storage area, if that makes sense to you. Yes.
So you got a homework assignment.
Yeah.
Okay.
I would just plan on coming to the zoning.
Yeah.
Busy boy.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I think we'll have support. Yeah, I think you'll have good support. Yeah, for sure.
What time is zoning meet?
7.
7.
Thanks.
Thank you. Thanks for your time.
Yeah, of course. Of course. All right, last call. Next meeting will be held, fourth Monday, in February, which is February 26th at 7 p.m. Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
I make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Discussion? Roll call.
You get on?
Yeah, you can do all that.
All right.
We need to sign something.
Yeah.
I wouldn't-
Make the motion.